You've quietly decided your body is the one part of your life you're allowed to ignore. You tell yourself you're focused on the work, the projects, the mind, the real stuff. The body can wait. But every plan you make runs on a machine you've been starving of attention. And that machine is shrinking the size of the life you're trying to build. By the end of this, you'll see exactly what that neglect is costing you and why you already knew. Here's the part that stings. You've dressed it up as humility. I'm not vain. I don't care about looks. I've got bigger things to worry about. It sounds mature. It sounds like someone who's above all that. And it's the most convenient lie you tell yourself, because it lets you skip the one arena where the scoreboard doesn't care about your excuses. A barbell can't be charmed. It doesn't read your pitch deck. It doesn't care that you're clever, that you talk fast, that people usually let you slide. It just sits there at a wait, and either you move it or you don't. For people who've built their whole identity on being smart, that's terrifying. So they avoid it, quietly, and they call the avoidance something noble. Think about what you're actually optimizing for. You want freedom, your own projects, your own hours, a life nobody else gets to script. Now picture that life inside a body that gets winded on 2 flights of stairs. A body that needs 11 hours of sleep to feel human. A body that aches when you sit too long at the desk where all your big ideas supposedly happen. How free is that, really? Because here's what nobody tells you about energy. It isn't a personality trait. You think some people are just high energy, and you're not. And so you arrange your whole life around your low ceiling. You take fewer meetings. You ship slower. You cancel things at 6 in the evening because you're already done. That ceiling you think is fixed, you poured the concrete yourself. There's research that's been replicated more times than almost anything in exercise science. Resistance training, even twice a week, changes the trajectory of how a body ages. Strength predicts how long you stay independent, how well your mind holds up, how steady your mood stays. Grip strength alone, literally how hard you can squeeze, tracks with how long people live. That's epidemiology talking, not a fitness influencer. So the weak body is a slow withdrawal from your own future. Every year you skip, the account gets a little lighter, and you don't notice because the statements only arrive decades late. Now, the honest objection. Some of you are thinking, I genuinely don't have time. I'm building something. 16-hour days. And I hear that because it's the one excuse that sounds airtight. Let me steelman it fully. If you're in the trenches of a launch, sleep and obsession are the job. And a gym session feels like a luxury for people with slower lives. Except the people building the hardest things tend to be the ones who train. The workload demands a system that can take a punch. You're too busy to afford being weak. Half the afternoon crashes come from eating blind. No sense of what actually went in. And once you log a few days on something like Savor, free calorie tracker, no ads, link in the description, the gap between what you think you ate and what you did becomes obvious. A founder running on that gap makes worse calls than one who's closed it. And over a year, those calls compound into entirely different companies. Let me tell you about a guy I'll call Marcus, because the shape of his story is one you've probably lived a version of. 28, building a software product solo. Sharp as anything. He wore his exhaustion like a medal. Pale, soft, running on caffeine and spite. He kept saying, I'll get to my health after the exit. Like health was a reward you unlock at the end. Then his back went from sitting, weak, for 3 years straight. He spent the next 2 months unable to work at all. The body sent an invoice, and it was due immediately. You think you're trading the body to buy time for the work. You're borrowing against it at a brutal rate, and the collection always comes at the worst possible moment. Notice the trap inside Marcus's story, because you're probably standing in it. He had the discipline. Anyone who codes alone for 3 years has more grit than most people will ever need. He just pointed all of it at the screen and none of it at himself. That's the dangerous kind of neglect. It wears the costume of dedication. You can be relentless and still be quietly destroying the platform everything stands on. Effort without maintenance isn't virtue. It's a countdown. And the body keeps a record whether you check it or not. The slumped posture from 1,000 hours at the laptop. The breath that goes shallow when you're stressed because nothing has ever taught it to stay deep. The energy that drops off a cliff at 2 in the afternoon, right when the hard creative work is supposed to happen. You blame the project, you blame the market, you blame your focus. The real bottleneck has been the meat you live inside, sending up the only signals it has. So what actually shifts when you start? Everyone expects the mirror. The mirror is the least interesting part. What changes first is something quieter. You start keeping a promise to yourself that no one else can see. You said you'd train Monday, Monday comes, you don't feel like it, and you go anyway. That's the whole game, right there. Because discipline is a thing you build, rep by rep, in the one place where the feedback is brutally honest. You can lie to your audience. You can lie to your clients. You can lie in your own head about how the project's going. A heavy squat tells you the truth about whether you did the work every single time. And a person who hears the truth daily starts to crave it everywhere else. That's the part that bleeds into the rest of your life. The kid who learns to add 5 kilos a month learns something about patience that no productivity book can teach. You stop expecting overnight. You start trusting the slow stack. And suddenly, the 18-month business plan stops feeling insane because you've watched your own body change on exactly that timeline. The gym teaches you how compounding feels in your hands. Here's a question worth sitting with. Why does a strong body make you harder to push around? It's not the muscle. Plenty of strong people are pushovers. It's that you've proven to yourself you can endure something uncomfortable on purpose. You walk into a negotiation, a hard conversation, a risky launch, carrying private evidence that you don't fold when things get heavy. People feel that, they can't name it, they just sense you're not desperate. And desperation is the quiet killer for anyone trying to build their own path. You take the bad deal because you're scared. You undercharge because you don't believe you're worth it. You stay small because small feels safe. A lot of that fear has nothing to do with money or skill. It's a body that's never been asked to be capable, whispering that you're fragile. Let me be straight about what training won't do, because I won't sell you a clean fairy tale. It won't fix a bad business. It won't make a broken relationship whole. It won't erase real depression or replace therapy or medication when those are what you need. Some of you are fighting things a deadlift doesn't touch, and pretending otherwise would be cruel. Strength is leverage, not a cure, but leverage makes everything else you're carrying lighter to lift. And the floor matters more than the ceiling here. You don't need to look like a statue. You don't need a coach, a fancy gym, or a supplement shelf. You need to pick things up and put them down. Push, pull, and move a few times a week for years. The protocol is embarrassingly simple. The doing is the only hard part, and the doing is the entire point. So why does the simple thing feel so heavy to start? Because starting means admitting you let it slide. It means looking at where you actually are. Weak, winded, soft. And that first honest look is the worst moment in the whole process. Everyone wants to skip it. You can't. You have to stand in front of that mirror you've been avoiding and say the true thing. This is the smallest version of me, and I chose it by accident. That admission is the doorway. Once you've said it, the humility excuse dies, because you've finally been honest, and real honesty has a completely different texture than the performance you were running. The fake version said, I'm above the body. The real version says, I owe the body and I've been a deadbeat. One keeps you small. The other hands you the keys. You're building a life on your own terms, your projects, your skills, your freedom, your name on the thing. Every part of that runs on the one asset you've been treating as optional. Your body is the engine the whole project sits on. Starve the engine, and you've capped the size of everything downstream, no matter how brilliant the blueprint. So here's the challenge, and I want you to feel the weight of it. For the next 90 days, you treat your body like infrastructure, not decoration. 3 sessions a week, pick things up, the weight goes up over time. You sleep like it's part of the work, because it is. You do it because a capable body is the cheapest, most permanent upgrade to every ambition you have, and it's been sitting right there the whole time. The strong don't get a longer to-do list. They get a longer reach. They can hold more, risk more, recover faster, and outlast the people who quit when their bodies gave out first. That's the most practical thing you'll ever build. And it's the one investment that can't be taken from you. Markets crash, clients ghost, projects die in their cribs, and the savings you were counting on evaporate overnight. A body you've spent years making capable doesn't disappear in a bad quarter. It walks with you into the next attempt, and the one after that, ready to carry whatever you decide to build next. Your mind has been writing checks, your body keeps declining. Go make it solvent, not someday, after the exit, after the launch, after the imaginary finish line. This week. The barbell's been waiting, patient and honest, for you to finally stop pretending you're too important to lift it.